My fiancée was laughing with her friends when one of them joked, "Imagine if he actually proposes this year." She laughed and said, "If he does, I'll finally have leverage." I was standing behind the curtain, with the ring box in my hand. My name's Ethan. I'm 29, software developer, the kind of guy most people describe as stable, predictable, responsible. Not the flashiest dude in the room, but I know what I bring to the table. And up until recently, I thought what I brought was enough. I'd been dating Rachel for a little over 3 years. She's 27, bright, ambitious, social, the kind of woman who walks into a room and instantly owns it. When we met, it felt like magic, like she noticed me in a crowd full of louder people. At first, I thought she saw something in me others didn't. Now, I'm not so sure she saw anything real at all. Let me take you back to that night. Rachel was hosting a little gathering for her close friends. Just drinks, music, wine glasses everywhere. The usual girls' night and turned co-ed hangout. I was there helping in the kitchen, grabbing refills, doing what boyfriends do when they're the only guy at the party. I didn't mind. I liked her friends, and they liked me. Or at least, I thought they did. Now, here's where it all started falling apart. Quietly, at first. I had planned something special that night. I didn't want a big public proposal, nothing over the top. But I'd picked out a ring. Spent weeks saving for it. Rachel once told me she hated Instagram proposals, so I thought, okay, I'll keep it intimate. Maybe when things quiet down and everyone's laughing in the other room, I'll pull her aside. I even tucked the box in the inside pocket of my jacket. But then, something happened. I was walking toward the living room to ask her to come outside on the balcony for a minute. I stopped just behind the curtain that separated the hall from the open space. I could hear her and her friends talking. I was about to call her name, and then I heard someone say something that made me pause. "Imagine if he actually proposes this year," one of her friends joked. It was followed by a burst of laughter. But it was Rachel's response that made my stomach twist. "If he does," she said, with this breezy, careless laugh, "I'll finally have leverage." I froze. The ring box in my hand suddenly felt like a brick. Heavy, cold. My heart started racing, but not the kind of racing I was expecting before proposing. This wasn't nerves. This was something darker. Something sharp. Leverage? What the hell did that even mean? They kept talking, laughing, moving on to some inside joke I couldn't follow, but I barely heard the rest. I stood there, hidden by the curtain, holding the ring meant to mark the start of forever, and instead, I felt like I'd just stumbled into the middle of a game I didn't even know I was playing. I didn't say anything, didn't step into the room. I backed away slowly, like I was defusing a bomb, walked into the bathroom and shut the door, locked it, sat down on the edge of the tub, staring at the velvet box in my hand. Rachel had no idea I was right there, no idea I heard her, and I had no idea who the hell she really was anymore. Now look, I know how this sounds. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe I misheard. But here's the thing. Rachel's always been strategic. She's ambitious, yes, but sometimes I wondered if she saw our relationship as part of her checklist. Supportive guy? Check. Apartment with a view? Check. Someone to help with bills until I launch my brand? Check. But I ignored those thoughts. I told myself it was just my insecurity. I let it go. Until that moment. I stayed in the bathroom longer than I should have. Ran the faucet just to have some noise. Took deep breaths. Tried to reason my way out of what I'd heard. But the words echoed in my head. If he does, I'll finally have leverage. That's not how you talk about someone you love. Eventually, I came back out. Smiled. Played the part. Rachel looked up from the couch. Gave me that look she always gave me when she wanted a signal. Come rescue me from this boring story. I walked over and wrapped my arm around her like nothing happened. I was calm. Too calm. She leaned her head on my shoulder. "You okay?" she asked, noticing something. Maybe the look in my eyes. Yeah, I lied. Just tired. Long day. And just like that, I buried the night I was supposed to propose. The next morning, Rachel acted like everything was perfect. She made us coffee, danced barefoot in the kitchen while toast popped from the toaster, and asked if I wanted to go apartment hunting that weekend. Bigger space, you know? Especially if we're thinking long-term, she said with a wink. Long-term. It hit different now. I nodded, played along. But inside, I was searching, remembering things. Conversations I'd dismissed. Late-night texts she wouldn't let me see. That time she said, "You always make things easy." Like it was both a compliment and an insult. I started paying attention. Really paying attention. And what I noticed, well, it would take me down a road I never planned to walk. Because if Rachel thought I was just some safe, predictable backup plan, she was about to find out how unpredictable I could be. I laid next to Rachel in bed, watching the ceiling while she snored softly beside me. It's strange how betrayal doesn't come with fireworks. It doesn't announce itself like a movie twist. It just slides in quietly, settles on your chest. and starts hollowing you out from the inside. The next morning, I went through the motions. Got up, showered, poured her coffee, kissed her goodbye as she left for her yoga class. But in my head, something had shifted. I wasn't on autopilot anymore. I was observing, studying, watching, and right away, the pattern started to change. Rachel suddenly started being nicer. Too nice. She texted more than usual, sent flirty emojis she hadn't used in months, asked if I wanted to have dinner with her friends again. It felt like she was managing me, keeping me pacified. Or guilty. One afternoon, I got a message from her cousin Laura. We'd always been friendly. She once told me, after a little too much wine, "You're too pure for Rachel." I thought it was just a joke back then. This time, she just sent me a random message. "You doing okay?" I asked why she'd asked that out of nowhere. She didn't reply for a few hours. Then finally, "I think you already know something. Just don't let her trap you." Trap me? That word stuck. I didn't respond. I didn't want to tip her off that I knew anything. But I started digging quietly. I looked through our shared calendar. Rachel had a lot of client meetings lately. A few nights a week, she'd come home late, claiming she was networking. She worked in marketing, so it wasn't out of the ordinary, but something about the vague names and locations didn't sit right anymore. Then came the moment that sealed it. I bumped into her coworker, Mike, at a coffee shop. We'd met a few times at company parties, got along fine. I made casual small talk, mentioned how busy Rachel had been lately. And that's when he gave me this awkward smile and said, "Well, she's got to keep the pitch going, right?" I blinked. "Pitch?" Mike's smile faltered. "You know, the investor pitch. All that startup stuff she's doing. I figured you were in on it." I just nodded slowly. "Right? Yeah, of course." He bought his coffee and left. But I stood there for 10 minutes, completely still. Rachel had told me she wasn't ready to launch her brand yet, that it was still in development. But apparently, she was already pitching it. To investors. To people like Mike. And she hadn't said a word to me. That's when the puzzle started coming together. She wasn't building something with me. She was using me as the scaffolding, until she didn't need me anymore. And the deeper I looked, the worse it got. She'd been listed as the sole founder on a business registration form I found in the mail, one I hadn't seen before. She'd used my address, my resources, my support, but no mention of me, no partnership, just her name, as if I'd never been part of it. And the nail in the coffin? I overheard one of her friends, Kelsey, talking on speakerphone while I was home early from work. Rachel was in the shower. Kelsey said, and I quote, "So you're still playing Fiancée? Damn, better milk it while you can." I didn't move, didn't make a sound. Rachel came out of the shower moments later, hair wrapped in a towel, smiling like nothing was wrong. She kissed me and said, "Thanks for being patient with me. Things are finally starting to click." I smiled back. But that moment, right there, I made a decision. I wasn't going to confront her. No yelling, no drama, no screaming matches where she could twist the story or gaslight me. That's what she'd expect. That's what she could spin. Instead, I was going to watch and wait. And when the moment was right, I'd let her think everything was perfect. Until it wasn't. Because Rachel wasn't the only one capable of planning. And soon, she'd find out that I had a pitch of my own. It happened a week later. A stupid coincidence, really. Rachel had a morning Zoom call and was rushing out the door to meet someone for brunch. I was home working remotely, pretending everything was fine. She gave me a quick kiss on the cheek and said, "Don't forget to water the plant in the bedroom, okay? It's dying again." Then she left in her usual flurry, phone in hand, always multitasking, always just a little too busy for eye contact these days. I went to the kitchen to make coffee, came back through the living room, and noticed her laptop was still open. Not locked. Not sleeping. Now, I don't make a habit of snooping. That's not who I am. But something about that glowing screen pulled at me. Like it was daring me to see for myself what I already knew deep down. I sat down slowly. Her desktop was cluttered, like always, but one folder stood out. It was named Plan B. No joke. That was the name. Capitalized. Sitting right in the middle of her desktop like a glowing red button. I opened it. Inside were dozens of files. Screenshots, documents, draft emails, financial spreadsheets, market research PDFs with her name and a brand logo I'd never seen before. Investor letters she had written. I scrolled faster, scanning through and feeling sicker by the second. Then I found the worst file of them all. It was a simple Word doc titled, "Pros and Cons, Ethan." I stared at it for a long moment before clicking. And I swear to you, I'll never forget what was written there. Pros. Pays rent on time. Predictable income. Never questions me. Emotionally steady. Easy to manipulate. Would propose eventually equals leverage. Cons. Emotionally boring. No status/network. Not ambitious enough. Not alpha. Wouldn't survive a breakup well. I read it twice. 3 times. I couldn't even blink. The air around me went quiet. She had actually written out a scorecard on me, like I was a case study, a strategy. I wasn't her partner. I was a placeholder, an ATM with a pulse, a stepping stone she could wipe clean when she reached the next level. And the line that broke me: wouldn't survive a breakup well. That's what she thought. That I'd fall apart. That I'd beg, grovel, maybe show up crying at her doorstep, confirming how weak I really was. She didn't know me at all. The rest of that day was a blur. I closed the laptop. Didn't touch a thing. Didn't confront her when she came home. I acted normal. Even asked how brunch was. She smiled and told me Kelsey was being extra, like usual. But it was good, she said, productive. Everything she said started sounding like code after that. Productive. Long term. Just trust me. But I wasn't trusting her anymore. I was documenting. I started taking photos of the folder, emailing them to a secret account. I screenshotted the pros and cons list, too, just in case she ever tried to twist the truth. I knew what I had to do. There was no fixing this. No apology that could undo the way she dissected me like a spreadsheet. No version of "I didn't mean it" that could rewrite what I'd seen. But I didn't want revenge, not in the loud, dramatic sense. I didn't want to scream or throw her laptop or out her on social media. No, what I wanted was something cleaner, smarter, final. I wanted her to realize, when it was too late, that I wasn't the boring, predictable guy she thought she could use, that she'd gambled and lost. And I already knew when it would happen. I just had to act normal. Until the day I disappeared. People think revenge has to be loud, that it's about throwing plates, burning bridges, making some dramatic public scene with screaming and crying and all the messy theatrics. But honestly, silence is more terrifying. Silence is surgical. And I was done being her leverage. The day after I found the pros and cons file, I took a personal day from work. Rachel thought I was in a meeting across town. In reality, I was across the city, sitting in front of the event coordinator we'd paid a $2,000 deposit to last fall. "I'd like to cancel the booking," I said, calm and polite. The coordinator blinked. "The wedding?" I nodded. "Yes. She doesn't know yet. But she will." Refund wasn't full, but I didn't care. I was making a statement, one Rachel would read later in the fine print. Over the next 2 weeks, I unraveled our future like I was pulling a loose thread in her favorite sweater. I called the caterer. Cancelled. Photographer. Cancelled. The band she insisted on, even though it cost as much as a used car, gone. I even called the florist, who had us down for 12 arrangements with imported peonies. One by one, I wiped our slate clean. She didn't notice. Or maybe she assumed I was handling it. She barely paid attention to the logistics anyway. She liked the aesthetic of being engaged, but left the actual planning to me. And while I was at it, I made a few quiet changes to our finances. I froze the joint savings account we had opened 6 months ago, the one we were supposedly using for the honeymoon. That account, empty now. I transferred my half back into a private account under my name, and I left hers untouched. I wasn't trying to steal from her. I just wasn't going to fund her anymore. Next, I booked a one-way flight. Rachel never really asked about my job. She liked to brag that I was the stable one, but she never asked what that stability meant. Never cared to know about the company I worked for, the promotion I'd quietly earned a few months back, or the fact that we were opening a new satellite office overseas, and I was invited to head it up. I never told her, because I knew she wouldn't hear opportunity. She'd hear inconvenience. So I took the offer, quietly, signed the papers, sent the onboarding documents. My start date was 6 weeks away. I didn't plan to tell her. I planned to be gone. But first, I needed to end it. On my terms. Cleanly. And I knew exactly how. Rachel had been bugging me to take her and her friends out for brunch. A celebration of almost their wedding status, she joked. I said yes. Played along. Told her I'd book something cute and surprise her. She lit up. I think she thought the proposal was coming, finally. But I wasn't bringing a ring. I was bringing receipts. 2 nights before the brunch, I slipped the ring box, the one I'd once carried behind the curtain, into a padded envelope. Alongside it, I placed a single printed page. Her pros and cons, Ethan list. No note. No threats. Just the truth. I mailed it to her parents. They deserved to see what kind of person their daughter had become. And I wanted them to know why there would be no wedding. Not now. Not ever. The night before the brunch, Rachel came home tipsy from drinks with her friends. She curled up beside me in bed and whispered, "I can't wait to marry you." I stared at the ceiling and whispered back, "Me neither." I said it so calmly she never noticed the ice in my voice. By the time she realized what was coming, I'd already be gone. The day of the brunch felt surreal. Rachel was practically glowing that morning. She wore this cream-colored dress with little gold accents, the one she'd said she might wear for our engagement shoot. She took forever on her makeup, humming to herself in the bathroom like a woman with a fairy tale ending around the corner. In a way, she was about to get a storybook moment. just not the one she was expecting. She kept dropping hints, asking if I was nervous, checking my pocket like she was hoping to spot a ring box. I played it cool, smiled, held the door open for her. She had no idea. We met her friends at this rooftop bistro she loved. Artsy chairs, gold menus, overpriced mimosas. I reserved the private terrace for the occasion, I told them. Everyone thought I was proposing. The waiter brought out champagne. Rachel looked around, all dramatic, and said, "Is this what I think it is?" I smiled. "It's exactly what you think." I stood up, reached into my bag, not for a ring box, but for a folder. Thick, white, and sealed. "Before anything else," I said, "I just want to share something with you all, especially Rachel." She laughed nervously. "What is this?" "A presentation," I said, "on why there will not be a wedding." Then I opened the folder. I passed out copies to each of her friends. Rachel didn't even open hers at first, just stared at me, confused. Her friends flipped through pages, faces tightening with each paragraph. I had included screenshots of the folder on her desktop, Plan B, a copy of the pros and cons, Ethan list, emails where she'd pitched her company behind my back, a timeline showing how she used my financial help for her startup, and a final page, the cancellation receipts for the venue, honeymoon, catering, band, and ring. All neat, all documented. Rachel finally opened her copy, and as her eyes scanned the list, her face drained of color. That confident, smug laugh she'd been wearing all morning, gone. She looked up and whispered, "You went through my stuff?" Her voice cracked, just slightly. I nodded. "Calm. Steady. I did. After I heard you say, if he proposes, I'll finally have leverage." I was standing behind the curtain that night, Rachel, with the ring in my hand. Her jaw opened, but no sound came out. Her friends weren't laughing anymore. In fact, a few looked away, visibly uncomfortable. Kelsey, who had once joked about Rachel playing Fiancée, closed her folder and said under her breath, "Damn." Rachel finally broke the silence. "Ethan, this is insane. We can talk about this. You're blowing things way out of." "No," I interrupted. "You wrote it. You planned it. You evaluated me like a spreadsheet. I was a face to you, a placeholder. But guess what? I stood. I've withdrawn. From all of it. The wedding. The account. This relationship. I've already accepted a job overseas. I leave in 3 weeks." Rachel blinked. "What? You don't need to worry about leverage anymore," I said. "You lost the negotiation." Then I walked out. No yelling. No scene. I didn't look back. The moment I stepped out into the sunlight, it felt like exhaling for the first time in months. Behind me, I could still hear her friends whispering. One of them called out, "Ethan, wait." But I didn't. The chapter had closed. I just hadn't told her the final line. 6 months passed like a storm I'd already outlived. I moved across the ocean, settled into my new role at the company's European office. New city, new rhythm, no ghosts hiding behind curtains. I got an apartment with big windows, worked late, slept well. Some nights, I'd remember Rachel's voice in the back of my mind, laughing, scheming, brushing her hair back while calculating her next move. But the silence? It was louder than I expected, and I liked it. For a while, there was nothing. No calls, no texts. I assumed she got the message. Or maybe her ego couldn't handle reaching out first. Then, one morning, it began. It started with an email titled, "Can we talk?" I didn't open it. I recognized the address immediately. 3 hours later, I got a second one. Then a DM on Instagram from a burner account with no profile pic. Then came the voicemail. I had missed the call while on a video call with the London office. When I played the message later that night, I heard her voice, soft, unsteady, trying hard not to crack. "Ethan, I don't know if you'll even listen to this. I don't know what to say, honestly. I messed up. I got too wrapped up in trying to build something for myself, and I thought, if I had options, I'd feel safer. But you were never a backup. You were everything. I didn't realize it until you were gone." There was a long pause, and then, quieter. "Please, just tell me if there's still a chance." She never said sorry. Not once. Just a vague cloud of regret, polished and passive, like a marketing pitch. The same tone she probably used with investors. The next morning, I woke up to 3 more messages. One of them included a picture of the ring box, the same one I had mailed to her parents, sitting unopened next to a wine glass in what looked like a messy apartment. She wrote, "I never even opened it. I didn't want to believe it was real." I didn't reply. A few days later, I posted a photo on my Instagram. Nothing flashy, just me at a quiet dinner on a rooftop in Lisbon. Across the table, a wine glass in front of someone with painted nails. Her face wasn't in the frame, but the caption? It simply read, "Sometimes losing the wrong person is the best proposal life can offer." That photo got more views than anything I'd posted in years. 2 days later, I noticed Rachel had deactivated all her accounts. she never got the last word. Because in the end, it was never about revenge. It was about walking away before I forgot who I was. Before I became the version of myself she thought I'd settle into. Predictable, safe, easy to manipulate. Instead, I became the man who never looked back. And that's the story. If you're still here, that means you're one of us. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button. I drop new chaos every single day, and trust me, tomorrow's story, it's even worse than this one.